Earnestly podcast. Here, it's the student game report, training camp edition, or I should say
Yes.
preseason edition. So, because we are, I think, we're already a game into the preseason as it is, the NFL preseason, but the first full week of preseason, aka fake football, as I call it, begins this weekend. So,
The
Kyle Nash.
methadone that is the solving for a football addiction, if you're not a full-on junkie like me that covers the XFL, like I do for the
The AAF,
and A7B in sports.
the USFL,
Yeah,
the
I can't
World
quite go
Football
down
League.
that road. Though it was fun seeing UCF's own Cole Schneider and Marlon Williams get a championship, whom I followed both through the black and gold banneret. Bing!
And the Bings are starting for the season. Here we go. I'll
Hey,
just shoot.
listen,
Bings.
you will actually be the
what?
second. You will be the second podcast, my friend, where I can officially announce that I will be contributing this season for the Sports Illustrated Jaguar report under my friend John Shipley. So yeah, there's that as well. Bing!
There you go. That's 3 Bings there out the shoot. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. And you guys know we'll be doing this, me and Kyle, as we've been doing this for the last decade now. Every Tuesday.
It really is.
Every Tuesday we do this. We'll be doing this week to week once the season starts. But a couple topics I want to get into in here involving the NFL as we're starting to dip a foot in the water of the season. The Athletic actually put out their own, and they've been doing this last couple of years actually. They actually put their own NFL rankings, but what they did, they do it in tiers actually. Now they said
they're starting to cover their behinds, and at this point, EJ Christian, I'm forced and compelled to do something that I don't normally do, and that is to say, you are braver than them because you don't do that. I'm going to hide behind my tiers. Bullcrap. You're ranking them when you rank.
To be fair, though, to them, I think they're still ranked because they still put it in order, but they have the Group 1 tiers in order. I mean, and the Group 2 tiers in order still too. So they do both really, but they have a certain group, a group of this and tier 1 and this tier 2. They said they had 5 tiers, but when I read the article, I couldn't find tier 5.
And by the way, who is the writer in question?
I did not see the national writer. This looks like to be a combination of different writers because it's different way and different thing the way they do the system here. Do you want to go backwards to tier 1, or you want to go forward to tier 1 and go down the list? How you want to do this?
I mean, I feel like tier 1 is pretty obvious, but we can start at 5.
Okay. Well, so there is 5 tiers supposedly, but when I went through the article, I couldn't find tier 5.
So let's just say low tier and work
low tier. Right. So here's tier 4. Okay. Tier 4. Tier 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks.
Okay.
They are the following:
Sam Howell, Baker Mayfield. Let's see, who else are they going to consider to be bad? I'm going to go ahead.
You want to guess this when we run through the list?
Well, for the bottom ones, I know that those are 2 that I have guessed are there, and I'm correct. Also, how are they treating rookie quarterbacks would be my question too. But
this is the weird thing.
Oh, Jordan Love is going to be on there too, by the way.
He's there too. So far you got 3 of them correct. Okay. Here's the rest of tier 4. Okay. Brock Purdy. Kenny Pickett.
Okay, well, somebody's wrong. Yep.
Baker Mayfield. Did you mention that already?
Yes, I did.
Okay. There's Ritter and Gardner Minshew. However, he won't be QB1 week 1.
He will not. He will not.
So technically, that should be Anthony Richardson's spot.
So already this is trash. Congratulations, Athletic, for doing everything you can hurt your reputation and take away from the shine of my good friend Brandon Howard. Bing. Anyway.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I look. Most of the list is correct.
I mean, granted, this isn't Colin Cowherd bad with the Dwayne Haskins thing.
We're not going to go there with that one. That was bad. That was a mistake. That was an honest mistake, though. But to be fair, too, also their graphics team did a horrible job too. In addition to not just having his name on the list, also
some staffer got fired. Some staffer stole your money. Whatever.
Yeah. Otherwise, like, should we be shocked that Brock Purdy's that low?
So, and I'm not, the reason why any 49er take right now is virtually unmakeable when it comes to the quarterback position isn't just this year, but last year. I mean, come on, EJ Christian, look at all the bleep that's going on. Not to mention when it comes to camp, the different rotations and people and people in the media making everything of anything. And at the end of the day, the 49ers have kind of said, hey, listen, we're probably going to start Brock unless something drastic happens, but can we get through camp? Of course, the media won't let you do that because they have a job to produce content. And I appreciate that. But by the same token, like, everybody has already magically somehow forgotten that nobody was at all certain what was going on with the 49ers quarterback situation, such that everyone was pissed they weren't starting Jimmy G. And at the end of the day, look what happened anyway. So, yeah.
All right.
But
Other
yeah,
than
Tony
that,
and bottom tiers, I'm not mad about that. There is definitely an element of show me more. We don't want to knee-jerk react like some analysts out there have been to do, right, EJ?
Yeah, shut up. other than Brock Purdy, I mean, I might even say that I'm mad about that because the sample size is small. I don't have a massive problem with the rest of the list, honestly, but it is what it is. We'll see how it plays out.
Who are the rest of our low tiers, or is that it?
That's it. That's tier 4 there. That's tier 4.
I'll say this, for all the trash I talked on some of the things they've done here with this, I like that they don't put Justin Fields on there. That's a good thing.
Well, I'm glad I said that. So here's tier 3, which is, I believe, 11 quarterbacks. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 quarterbacks. Here's the following quarterbacks in tier 3.
How many
Kyler Murray
rookies are on it?
How many rookies on here? I don't see any in here.
That's fast. Continue.
So I'm assuming tier 5, because there was 30 guys they mentioned, and tier 5. I'm assuming the tier 5 is probably Bryce Young and
CJ
Stroud. That's what I'm imagining.
Who will be
right? That's why I imagine it'll be the tier 5.
Or,
I'm not going to get into that.
Obviously, Will Levis will be there too. Ryan Tannehill is in this tier as well. I'm willing to bet.
Yes. So right now, Kyler Murray, Derek Carr, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson.
Why do people hate Derek Carr and Russell Wilson? Well, I know why people hate Russell Wilson. He had one bad year, so obviously you have to throw giant bags of poop on him.
Tua Tagovailoa, your boy Jimmy G.
Whoa, stop. Tua is in 3 out of 4. Someone's an idiot.
Jimmy G, your boy.
Okay.
Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill, and Mac Jones. So what stood out to you this one?
First of all, Derek Carr being here is an absolute travesty, and obviously nobody has watched any games out west by any stretch of the imagination. Impressionable people who maybe haven't watched the league for, I don't know, beyond 2 seasons before now may be critical of Russell Carrington Wilson. But if this same dolt puts Aaron Charles Rodgers in tier 1 while putting Rusty in tier 3, you have an absolute idiocy problem of people who don't do anything than read other headlines to build their own stories.
More on that later.
It's almost if I'm teasing fake outrage knowing this ish is coming without having read the article in question. But continue, EJ Christian.
I'm still Daniel Jones too high.
You think wait. You think Daniel Jones should be bottom tier? He did better than that.
Tier 4, high tier 4, lower tier 3, but high tier 4.
Gosh, it's a good thing you're not a Giants fan. I'd have a lot of questions.
Yeah, something like that. Justin, I guess this list, like, Tua would be higher if the injury risk wasn't there. I think they factor that.
That's asinine. It's just absolutely asinine, because even still. And maybe maybe this is a way to, here's some credit I'll give. Maybe they're low key giving credit to the receiver core, but if you're doing that, then how can you crap on Justin Fields like this? And granted, I would put Fields in tier 2, but there's a small enough sample size where people who are less bold or outright dumb might put Justin Fields in 3. Man, I'm doing a bad job at hiding my shade here. I'm just letting it all hang out.
Wait, how's that any different from you every week when we do this podcast during the fall, and every week on the Huddle Up podcast? Bing.
Yeah, when it's not you, bing, and when it's not you, it's just different. Or Mikey Byrne, for that matter.
So it's special for me though, of course, because
I put Mikey Byrne in here.
I feel like, well, right, but I feel like I trigger for 10 years been triggering you, and nothing's changed.
Oh, is that what it is? And here,
I guess so. I'm not trying to do it on purpose. It's end up happening that way. At least your reaction says so. I don't want to tell you about that, buddy.
In fairness, before you try to claim some sort of ism or something, do remember that on the Huddle Up podcast, where our good friend and head of Huddle Up Inc., Big Jim Neese, bing, I have called him a bitch on his own show. So there's that.
Woke Jim. Jimmy G feels a little high. I understand his record. He has a good record, but I feel like Jimmy G in Vegas, I don't have very, very high expectations for him.
And that's my
honestly.
point, though. Like, first of all, they're doing that because of Devontae Adams, which then again, I mean, it does fit with my theory that they're trying to give. If they're trying to give the receivers their shine, you're right. Jimmy G should be a low tier. I don't think Jimmy G belongs low tier. I do believe that he's at 3, and the reason he's at 3 is because you can't help the club in the tub. And which is also, in your defense, EJ Christian, a good reason to put him in tier 4 too, man. Listen, I've been a Jimmy G supporter when he was with the 49ers as somebody who follows the 49ers, outside of podcasting and stuff. But at some point, and I got there last year, you can't help, going into the preseason, like them starting Trey Lance, I was in favor of that despite being a Jimmy G guy. You can't help the club in the tub.
So he's a mid tier 3 guy based on this list.
And I'll ask you this: when you're saying mid tier 3, what is the range? Do this.
Well, it was 11 guys on this list, and they have him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay,
and this is in order. The record is in order. Like I told you, it's still in order.
I got you. So the bottom tier would be 32 through what?
30 to 32 and beyond, I guess.
So 32 and below.
So tier 1 and tier 4 is 1 through 30. So this is why I was saying that 31, 32 is probably
follow that. I'm like, I thought you just come out of a baseball podcast,
right?
Which
no. Derek Carr's be higher than Kyle Murray for the record too. Of course, first of all, Kyle Murray's not even playing probably half this year, if not most the rest of the year. So why is Derek Carr behind Kyle Murray to begin with? First off, we can argue about tier 1. He should be in tier 2, whatever. It's fine. But if you can put him in tier 3, he should be number 1 in tier 3.
Derek Carr.
This is in order. This is in order for the record.
I don't know that I'm prepared to put him ahead of Russell Carrington Wilson, but I'm not prepared to put Derek Carr necessarily ahead of I think Rusty is a good one. Tua, if you want to put Derek Carr ahead of Tua, I'm not mad at you. Just because Derek Carr has been doing what Tua's been doing for a longer period of time, I feel like.
Well, but I also think they weighed into injury risk. I think if Tua didn't have this risk with him that comes along with him, he'd probably be a tier 2 without a problem.
Yeah,
based on the results.
Well, and I had this conversation with Sensei Jeff Barnes on the Student of the Game podcast. Bing! Derek Carr is now paired with the best defense he's had in his career. So that's what makes him interesting in Nolans. And frankly, if Nolans does not dominate that South Division, you had other problems. Point blank.
Yeah. All right. Here's tier 2. Tier 2 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Is that 7? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 7 deep. Here we go. Tier 2: Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson, and Kirk Cousins.
Where's Jared Goff in all this, Ernest Christian?
Jared Goff was tier 3. He was tier 3. He was
like
2 behind.
If you're gonna burn and bam on Russell Carrington Wilson based on last year's performance, you got to put Jared Goff into tier 2, right? I don't know. Anyways, I
feel like Jared Goff is the 1 year sample. Okay, to see more kind of thing. Like I have a problem being in tier 3, but he probably should be on top of tier 3 right next to Derek Carr. Should be ahead of Kyle Murray as well too.
Obviously, right. Also, I'm noticing Jalen Hurts. Wait, there are names I haven't heard that I won't spoil here, but the complete and total disrespect for both Jalen Hurts and Lamar Demetrius Jackson is just absolutely stupid here.
So they should be tier 1.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think people are going to say Kirk Cousins is too high. I disagree. I think Kirk Cousins
is absolutely too high, and Jared Goff should be ahead of him. In that sorry division that is the NFC North, once Aaron Charles Rodgers left, that is, the fact that Kirk Cousins is not head and shoulders the best quarterback in that division, hands down, right now, is proof he's a tier 3 quarterback. The reason why that is picked to get to where they get to, his name is Justin Jefferson.
So where they have Kirk Cousins is literally on that border of tier 2 to tier 3. Like he's the lowest. He's the lowest of tier 2.
And by the way, he plays the Eagles this year in prime time. Chalk that bitch up as an L right now.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson. I feel like people there's a wait and see thing here. He had a bad bad half a quarter of the year last year. Let's see what happens this year.
Well, moreover, listen, he even looked bad in preseason, and I know it's preseason.
Yeah.
I'm I think the tail wags pretty far when it comes which direction Deshaun Watson should go. I think he should go in tier 3 right now because he needs to show us that he can be the villain, and nothing's happened to establish that I believe in that. I think I've expressed this in other places too, and I certainly will get in deeper with it when I talk to our good friend L.A. Broadus of the 3-point conversion on the Student of the Game podcast. Bing! That's coming up in 2 weeks, I believe.
Matthew Stafford. I feel like if the injury didn't happen last year, he'd probably be still in tier 1.
See, here we are doing this again, too. Like, you're going to tell me even uninjured John Matthew Stafford is tier 1? I'm not there, and I wouldn't have been there 2 years ago either. I
mean, last year he was coming up with a Super Bowl championship, and we will.
And I still wouldn't call him tier 1.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, listen, it's interesting with because John Matthew Stafford is not a mobile quarterback, and in this day and age, Ernest Christian, we've talked about this on all shows that we've done together. That mobile quarterback is what it is. Experts and people in it from all levels of football. I'll just name a few. Michael Vick, you want to call him biased? Cool. How about Jimmy Johnson? You think that's just the NFL saying it? Gus Malzahn of UCF, formerly also the former coach of Auburn in the SEC, and now currently a coach in the Big 12, believes that that's the same sort of direction that football is taking, and the list goes on. The only person that's disagreed with me in person with that there, Ernest Christian, Ndamukong Suh, a guy, by the way, who was just freshly removed from having Thomas Edward Patrick Bieber Brady as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Little bias there. You see what I'm saying? Punchline is this, Ernest Christian: John Matthew Stafford cannot be a tier 1 quarterback if even if he is healthy, because he cannot move. He cannot be a tier 2 quarterback because we have no idea what his damn status is. And if
he's too high.
Yeah, if you're going to punish Tua Tagovailoa and Russell Carrington Wilson, so too John Matthew Stafford must also be punished for injury.
So Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson have cases tier 1, like you said.
Yes.
I feel like with Jalen Hurts, I feel like it's more the sample being small. Let's see, do it again.
I'm with that, except for one thing. The guy, if it weren't for a miraculous 29-yard run with a bad ankle, who got the actual MVP, if that play didn't happen, Ernest Christian, my vote would have been for Jalen Hurts as the MVP, even if he lost the goddamn game.
Right. In Lamar's case, I believe it's just the injuries last 2 years.
Something injury. I mean, listen, I'm not mad at you for putting it, but by the same token, like, damn, Anyway.
All right, here we go. Tier 1. Well, quick. Your boy Sunshine. Tier 2. That's right.
I'm not mad at it, but I can tell you the way they got there is what's flawed. They're not getting there because of things that Trevor Lawrence himself has said at the podium about his footwork needing to improve. Because whenever he misses the pass, it's like, yeah, I didn't like my footwork. I did this with my feet. Just point blank every time. Super intelligent guy. I don't think that's the question. You know what they're actually doing, Ernest Christian? They're accounting for the fact that his first year he had that many losses. Forget about the fact that he was mired in literally the worst coaching job in history, which that still is. I'm sorry, and no disrespect to Sean Payton and his rant against Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett is only second place. My punchline is this. Urban Meyer is the reason why that win-loss record is so bad, but the problem is not one single person doing a list that's doing tiers has properly accounted for the fact that he was dealing with that as a rookie, that in fact last year was his rookie season, and it's just a crime. Same is true of Travis Etienne, but nobody cares. It's a running back in Jacksonville.
Right. All right, here we go. Tier 1. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of course, number 1, Patrick Mahomes.
You did not put Justin Herbert in tier 1. You did not put Aaron Charles Rogers in tier 1.
This is not
I know. Listen, the cowards don't even have a name in the author for the byline of this damn article. So, yeah, I can't say them. So you as the collective that wrote this, you're cowards. Aaron Charles Rogers is no longer a tier 1 quarterback, just like you and I years back when Thomas Edward Patrick Bieber Brady was this age, knew that Tom Brady was no longer a top 5. Stop it.
So Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert. These are 5.
So the list, if you're going to do 5, the correct list is Patrick Lavon, Joey Burr, you could put Josh Allen there, but he would be 5th in a list. You know what I'm saying? But I mean,
So you would put Jalen Hurts instead of.
I would put in Jalen Hurts ahead of Justin Herbert right now. If Justin Herbert can actually beat the Chiefs this year, we'll talk.
I feel like the Justin Herbert thing though.
Yeah,
it feels like Peyton Manning early career. Like he doesn't have like any like success in the playoffs yet, but the physical skills are there. That
your
we
comparison is close. He's actually closer to Steve McNair, who ironically couldn't get out of his own division because of, are you ready, Peyton Williams Manning. So you're close.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like, Peyton Manning could still win playoff games like 5 years into his career.
The moment that Peyton Williams Manning left the division, suddenly the Titans got better. Anybody else notice that?
Meaning that when they went from the AFC Central to AFC South, when they created that
Negative.
field, right?
When Peyton Williams Manning went from the AFC South to the AFC West to play for the Denver Broncos.
I mean, years later that. Okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking that, as what I mean to say is, the moment Curtis, I should have been a painter, was taking starts, that's when the Titans started to take the division. You notice that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to talk trash on the Titans. There's plenty of other legitimate reasons to do that. Oh,
anyway. Oh yeah, definitely. Is it okay? So Rodgers, I'm not gonna argue on that one because I can see the argument for both. I can see the argument both ways.
No, you can't, because the argument is based on history, not on potential. And for Christ's sake, the guy was already injured in camp. You're trying to tell me he's going to make it 17 games as a damn 38-year-old?
I feel like this is based on expectations more than anything else.
Bingo.
Because
so there
I
is
think
no argument. There is only.
Well, that's argument to your point that if I would put him tier 2, it's for that reason. Like he did slip last year. We have to acknowledge that.
No, I don't think so. This is where I disagree. It's not about last year. To me, that puts him in tier 2. Sorry, tier. Yeah, I don't put him in tier 2 because of necessarily what happened with the Packers and stuff last year. Mm-hmm. A lot of ish went wrong last year. That wasn't Aaron Charles Rodgers, right? Like, let's be clear. How many injuries were there around Aaron Charles Rodgers? What other stuff was just going wrong everywhere that had nothing to do with Aaron Charles Rodgers? And by the way, I think we're figuring out Matt LaFleur is not half as good a coach as people were trying to tell us.
We're going to find out this year, definitely. If we're still on the fence right now, we're about to find out this year, buddy.
Ain't nobody on the fence. Listen, if you stuck with Jordan Love like this and you let yourself get manipulated by a franchise quarterback, you're a bad head coach, period. I'm not saying I could have done it better. Let me be clear. I might have K'd the Lord ayahuasca myself. I'm not saying I'm a better man. I'm just saying you need a better man to run that franchise.
Right. All right. I want to.
Robert Saleh ain't gonna play that. He's gonna take some receipts, Ernest Christian. You know this.
That's right. He did say that last year. All right. I want to transition this topic now, because this is obviously probably the most intriguing story team of the offseason was the Jets, and getting set Aaron Rodgers.
The one we heard about the most was the Jets.
Right. Aaron Rodgers. So we've been talking about the Jets off and on about the season and what's their ceiling, are they a playoff team, this and that, are they a wild card, whatever. I went through the schedule for the first time actually about a week ago, just to kind of see where we're at, because I remember I had a take on, was it this show or Huddle Up, where I said that week 1 game against the Bills was a must win, to where I got Big Jim, of course, or Woke Jim rather, decided to come down my ass, tell me that's not a must-win game. That is ridiculous to have a must-win game week 1.
There is no such thing as a must-win game in week 1. You are absolutely right there.
However, I went through the schedule for the first 6 weeks.
Yes.
Here's how their first 6 weeks shakes out.
And before you get into it, I'm gonna let you know I'm well aware of some bull, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. Week 1, the Bills.
Yes.
Week 2 at Dallas. Week 3, Patriots at home. Divisional game, of course.
Okay.
Week 4, Chiefs.
Woo.
Week 5, at the Broncos.
Meh.
Week 6, Eagles.
Damn.
So the reason I think I say it's a must win is because that schedule out the chute ain't forgiven.
So I will tell you, you're close. You're mostly wrong, but you're close, because first of all, it's week 1 and you said must win. That's absolutely asinine. In order for that statement to be remotely true, they need to have one more division game in that stretch. But Kyle, they're going to play the Patriots. Yeah, that's only 2 division games. I would say you need at least 3. And if it played theoretically half the division for week 1 to be a must win, that is not what's happening here. 2, half of these games, let me do my math right here. Yes, half of these games are in fact not even conference effing games. The ones that are the least winnable, get this, homie, are the NFC, which is something that you will not find on many damn schedules. I think matchup-wise, the Cowboys are more problematic than the Broncos for them. Now, granted, at the end of the day, it's going to be how Russell Carrington Wilson has recovered, what Sean Payton does, and how good Aaron Charles Rodgers is with the surrounding cast. But the Eagles, to me, the more difficult games are the Eagles, Chiefs, and Cowboys. I will say that the Bills, too, are also difficult. And because it's a week 1 game like that, I'm giving the advantage to the guys that have the chemistry already built in the form of Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. And of course, let's throw Gabe Davis in there. Everybody seems, even though Nick Wright does everything he can at every opportunity to not only crap on Josh Allen, but Gabe Davis as well, which that's just entirely ridiculous. Not the Josh Allen part, the Gabe Davis part. Sure, it may help the fact that I've talked to him personally, but that's a whole other question. The punchline's this, EJ Christian. The 3 games I think they are most apt to lose are the 3 you mentioned. Please notice that I am still leaving the Bills as a toss-up, though I would pick them straight up. I would need to see the spread before Mikey Burns starts putting up any fake news about what I picked in the degenerate side of the schedule. See what I did there? So yeah, as degree of difficulty goes in that first 6 stretch, those aren't conference games. Ergo, they are not even relevant in tiebreakers themselves. Obviously, you want to win. Do I think the Jets can come out of this? If they come out of this with 3-3, should I be relatively happy as a Jets fan? Abso-goddamn-lutely. But no, must win is asinine, especially when you scroll down the list and you see a stretch where they played the Dolphins within 4 weeks. Okay? Or week 12 and week 15. That close together, you have the chance to play what is, if not among the top 5, top 3 best receiver duos in the damn league. The thing you're failing to mention here, Earnest Christian, is look at this stretch at the end after week 15. Commanders, Cleveland Browns, and New England Patriots. Things that I would call at this point in time here in the month of August, entirely winnable games to get things back on track if they need to surge up into the playoff race, if they're even in it, because in fact it is the AFC. EJ Christian, you know what this actually reminds me of ever so slightly, and I forget what year it is. You always seem to remember it better than I do, but remember the year you had the Chargers dead to rights. I think Phillip Rivers was still quarterbacking at the time, and I called that they make the playoffs, and I dunked on you really hard for the first time. Shaquille O'Neal may still have been playing. It's that far back.
Like 2013, like early, process.
Yeah, it was. The punchline is this feels like that. They're going to be a team that struggles. They're going to be a team that's disappointing. Aaron Charles Rodgers is going to go through a phase of RELAX. Relax. And he'll be right.
Yes.
So, especially for Jets fans, if Jets fans are already acting entitled, guess what? I don't give a damn how allegedly unprofessional Sean Payton may have been. He's right about y'all.
Let's stay in the division real quick. Lots of little rhetoric about Bill Belichick and his job status in New England.
I mean,
hot seat. You believe on that hot seat bullshit?
First of all, if in the interest of my good friend, not only Shukri Rice but Shaq Krosky, if I don't acknowledge Boston media being the definition of entitlement, that is not a college football program. They in fact are. Let me be clear about that ish. Okay.
I agree. I agree with you. For the record.
Yeah. No, and thank you for that. You being a former Patriot fan yourself, that's very good.
Exactly. Let them know.
Shut
up.
but with that in mind, Earnest Christian, I have to say, after what has been a rather mediocre stretch, you rolling the dice and failing, having, doing some what can be deemed heinous crimes, with the whole coordinator situation. Listen, I'm not saying anything anybody doesn't already know about, But depending on how this season goes, yeah, I would say he's hot seated. Does he get fired at the end of the season? No. You need a lot more badness, because at the end of the day, we have to remember it's a COVID pandemic breakout in his locker room because Cam Newton spread it, allegedly. And they lost 4 weeks of practice for all intents and purposes, or all intents and purposes. Sorry, I said it ignorantly. That would have been a playoff year. They were one game out of the goddamn playoffs this past year, and everybody seems to forget that.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the end of the day, since things are getting mended as they were, is the relationship between he and Mac Jones shaky? Maybe. Do I feel like there's that big a drop off between Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones? No. Should they start Mac Jones? Yes. Do they need to win? Depends on the team. But I think they can be a threat. Now, granted, I haven't done my research for the AFC East. That'll be coming up on August 16th of the Student of the Game. Bing! By
Next
the way,
week.
confirmed guest already include one, Eric Lopez, to cover the Miami Dolphins, and more to come too. Hoping to get a jacket from Antoine Staley. We'll see what happens. There's a name that's popular on this podcast, right, EJ Christian?
Very popular. Like if I had to do a wall of fame of like alum on this podcast, like he's definitely in the top 5. You know what I'm saying?
I won't ask where I am because I don't want to be wounded.
I'll ask who? Who? I mean, Antoine Staley is one of the first people I had on my show
listen,
years ago.
Antoine Staley is the Washington of that. If I make that Rushmore, I understand that I'm Teddy Roosevelt.
You're definitely on that. You're on the Rushmore. No, not the Rushmore. It's not talking about like a Wall of Fame. Or speaking of Wall of Fame, it's you, it's G, it's
okay. If that group was a band, I would be aware that I'm the bass player. That's fine.
Right. Hey, fuck you! I'm a bass player. What are you talking about? Was you got from bass player?
Hey, listen. Listen. Bass players relate to that mentality. The offensive line he points to behind him.
Foundation, baby. You can't shine without the foundation. Foundation being O-line, foundation being the bass and the drum.
Did you ever slap the bass when you played it?
Sometimes, but I'm also I pick players. I play metal mostly, so
you can't really.
But I can slap the bass when need be.
I bet that looks hot. Do you do that for the wife at home? Anyways, go ahead.
That's why she married me. Hey, yo. What else want to talk on here? The running back market now and the rhetoric around that. We just saw Saquon Barkley get signed. Finally, they worked it out. A 1-deal deal with Saquon Barkley, so we got to do this whole shit over again next year. Josh Jacobs, the Raiders, still not signed as well.
Right.
Delvin Cook not signed as yet. What do you make of this whole running back market situation, the franchise tag, and the lack of not being able to pay guys? I already had an opinion on this already. I think I expressed that weeks ago on the podcast. Where are you at on the whole on the running backs and whatnot, and how where do they fit in today's NFL?
I mentioned people who I emulate out in the national media and who I follow on a regular basis. And I feel compelled to mention that too, because I don't want somebody to think that I copied Nick Wright when I'm saying this. But this fool had, because he is on TV in so many places, had the opportunity to express on air what I was already thinking, except he did it in a very specific way. That's only a slightly different direction than me, but nonetheless, a one that should be included. I don't think this is the damn emergency that's being portrayed in the media, and everybody's acting like there should be some sort of a government, league injection and intervention to fix it. That something in a collective bargaining agreement needs to be adjusted. No, not to make this show political, even though that's your favorite shit to do, because that's how you roll.
You know me too well.
I think the political climate is part of it in a world where
really,
yeah, I do. It led to the mentality of like in a world where we've gotten stimulus checks when we've gotten relief. Now, granted, I'm not saying that should or shouldn't have happened. The COVID pandemic was a beast and people needed help. I'm not dissing that. I'm saying with things like that existing, with intervention from a governing body being something that's been so freshly consumed by the populace in this country where these players live, the first instinct has been, provide some sort of reparation for the running backs. And the answer is, where were you bitches for the fullbacks? I don't see Kyle Juszczyk going on shows out there and wondering why the hell he's not in Pro Bowls or getting that. Well, maybe he is in Pro Bowls. I don't know if they still do the fullback position on the ballot. I haven't voted for the Pro Bowl in some time, but the punchline is this. In an era before his where Tim Kuhn was just somebody you wrote in because it's the only name you knew at the fullback position, kind of like an offensive guard, another oppressed individual. And let's not even get started in Travis Michael Kelce's salary, where the only reason he's not banging the desk is he said on his own podcast with a center Jason Kelce, and don't get me started on that salary range, by the way. He said he's not making a big deal about it because he likes being at a winning culture. What if Travis Michael Kelce was getting paid the way he was being played and playing for the goddamn Packers right now? Or since I'm using the term goddamn, the goddamn Jets right now. You're going to try to tell, and hey, did we already forget about what happened with Jimmy Graham? This is a thing we're doing, but suddenly we got to break the market for the running backs, where the real business reason and problem has nothing to do with the players. And that's the part that makes them sentimental to a certain extent. The reason why the health of running backs don't last is either outdated or just plain bad offensive schemes. This isn't the 70s anymore where you just hand the ball to a guy and have him bell cow your way there. That should have ended with Rudy Johnson back when he was about the only that guy that was doing it and regularly staying healthy for the Bengals. Look that ish up, Ernest Christian.
Rudy Johnson. That's a blast from the past. Jeez, I remember him.
Yeah, because guys that could run like him but kept getting hurt, like Michael the Burner Turner, who we're talking about him is where I first met Booga Peters, who was a big part of the AFC West preview.
That's right.
Yeah. He did a great job, not for nothing.
And his bottom line too. Also, like you get B-Man to play association. You guys collectively bargain this.
No. That's the part that I think slightly inaccurate because
really, you think so?
Yeah. You don't collectively bargain the rate for a position. That's not exactly what happens. Now,
no, I agree, but I'm saying that. Okay, so my thing is this. This is my assessment going forward into this. Like, if you have a problem with this in general, then maybe you should bargain to have, instead of having two franchises, have one franchise tag.
Don't act like that wasn't argued. I can tell you on a regular basis.
Yeah,
I can argue on a regular basis that the reason why the transition tag, for example, is a thing is no player likes the franchise tag because one, it only affects those players that would be getting enough for it to be an issue anyway.
Right.
I know the concept is to kind of protect teams from just falling flat, losing one major star or player if they got them. Like, just as an example, what would happen to the Giants if they lost Saquon Barkley? Anyways, no, better example, what would happen if let's say the Chargers lost Justin Herbert? It's a problem. Now, granted, also not a good plan to franchise a quarterback. That's a whole other conversation. But
yeah,
or hell, I mean, what would your Cowboys be without Micah Fitzpatrick? Not Micah Fitzpatrick.
Who's Cowboys? Who's Cowboys?
Yours, Micah Parsons.
Me? Oh, okay. My Cowboys.
Yeah. Now, granted, even though he got stonewalled by Walker Little, who was a backup left tackle when he came to Jacksonville and played, Micah Parsons is a big part of that. Or hell, let's take it back to your Cowboys further. You got to try to tell me you want to pay Sean Lee with all the time he spent hurt as your only defensive threat? And I think that's what they're trying to combat is situations where they're so reliant on a single player. Granted, is that a result of a team developing poorly or maybe having bad coaching? I don't know. There's a lot of different ways this can go with the franchise tag. I'm not here to argue in favor of that per se, but there are, let's just put it this way. The franchise tag is a thing because the players thought they wanted it at one point. Hey, well, if they don't decide, they got to pay the price, literally. And then they realize job security is a thing, it's, I guess the franchise tag such that it is a problem, but is not the biggest problem because at the end of the day, whether the franchise tag existed or not, EJ Christian, the running back position is simply valued less because you have more of them that play at a high enough level while also having a reduced period of shelf life in the NFL, right? Derrick Henry lasting the way he does with the way he plays the game is an anomaly, right?
Yeah.
And look at how many guys we've watched fall apart Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson, Curtis Martin, Sean Alexander, guys who were famous enough to be on the goddamn Madden cover and then immediately disappear.
Yeah.
And nobody was griping at Mike Shanahan before it was cool, by the way, where he would pull guys like Reuben Drones off the street and make them a one-year runner to rush for 1,000 yards. Kind of like what his son apparently does with quarterbacks too. Am I right, EJ Christian? Damn.
Really? Yeah.
So
one thing I will say about this too, also with to the rhetoric.
Yeah.
The owners a lot have been very vocal lately. Now maybe it's just Jim Irsay being loud because he's always loud, but Jim Irsay, in relation to the Jonathan Taylor situation,
I think this is the political climate too. By the way,
right? Yeah, could be also too, but him saying no, we're not going to do anything for you. And to be honest, I could see his point. I disagree with it. I could see his point. Why would I want to pay money
in a world? Well, see, and that's the thing. Right now, and I haven't looked at the cap lately, so that's on me. But right now, and this is, I think, the defense against the Colts. I couldn't tell you who it is they're paying the most, but I know it's not Anthony Richardson because they just drafted him. Mm-hmm. Something tells me that Gardner Minshew is not pulling in that large a salary. Unless they're backing up the Brinks truck for Shaq Leonard or Quentin Nelson.
Quentin Nelson probably would be the one I would guess.
Okay, cool. Now, who getting the damn money? Mm-hmm. So in Jonathan Taylor's defense. Now,
maybe got dead money. Paying Matt Ryan's a fucking old carcass. Who knows?
That's the reason why I said I didn't look. I'm pretty sure, especially, and it came out too when he was working as an analyst. He says, "I'm not retired. I'm just waiting for a team that's picking me up and doing this," because if he officially retires, a butt ton of money he's owed that I believe is still counting against the cap for the Colts. Like I said, I still haven't looked it up, but that's a factor to your point. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is what it is, and I think owners in general are very bold now because we don't have another CBA negotiation for another 6 years, 5 years.
I forget the number.
We're ways away from another negotiation. So there's a lot of time between now and the next time they bargain this again. So I think the ownerships in general, the NFL in general, is emboldened to take a stand here.
That's part of it. That's part of it. Also, I think they're taking a chance on leveraging against Damara, like the fact that Damara Smith is no longer the leadership for the Players Association. I think may part of render of why they would be more aggressive right now. That's a whole other question. Yeah.
All right, college football. Lots of things happening in college football in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Mainly with teams leaving conferences and leaving within a year or whatever.
You haven't heard.
I lost track
about preseason getting released because we're talking about goddamn realignment.
I mean, yes, that's taking more precedent than the actual polls that came out yesterday.
And frankly, as it bloody should. But go on.
That being said, I mean, I lost track of who's going where now because there's been so much news reported the last week or two about this team's going to the Big 12, this team's going to the Big 10, this team is the ACC might be losing a team here, and all this, and a lot of rumors still on top of that.
Right.
What do you make of all this realignment now? What I mean, shape up college football the next couple of years for me.
So I'm going to answer your first question first here, Earnest Christian. What is happening here? It's a correction that's long overdue. This time, 2 years ago, when Gus Malzahn took the helm at UCF as the coach, I asked him about just the movement of USC and UCLA to the Big Ten.
Big Ten, right?
And asked, because the rumors of the Big 12 expansion pulling teams out of the American Athletic Conference that included UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, and BYU was just rumor then. And, I was trying to ask a question, not so much for him to be like, hey, we're joining the Big 12, bitches. Woo! No, not like that. But look at the coaching perspective of the tectonics, of the plate tectonics, so to speak, of the college landscape. And all I could say is, man, college football is changing. And I don't think it's going to end here.
Is it changing for the better, in your opinion?
That depends on how you're defining better. In my opinion, yes. Okay. Conferences that have sat on their laurels and given us garbage ass football and made us pay years for it and have told us they're still better no matter what, such as yours, Seminoles, no offense. Yes, plenty of offense. No offense to Mike Nolan because he's a great coach.
He's growing on me slowly.
Sorry, what?
He's growing on me slowly. He's growing on me a little bit.
Listen, buddy, as a guy who's covered him in multiple press conferences and watched him still have just limitless class after being up big on UCF more than once and still losing the fucking game. This is your podcast, so I can say that. This guy, man, he's a super individual, and he's given me nothing but good responses when I've talked to him. Listen, I like your coach more.
Maybe a little biased there, a little bit, because
I respect the man. Yeah, like
fair point.
What he did with a Memphis team to compete the way that they did, was phenomenal. Phenomenal. No,
phenomenal.
I am biased because I like.
Give me into it real quick though. So stop dancing.
Yeah. I feel like that's not. That was good. Give him a little theater. Give him a little theater in the intermission since that.
We're showing our age now, buddy. Careful.
What? The Muppets are great at any age, you bitch.
You're damn right. I'm just saying that. Do the kids today talk about them though? I
If they don't, they're doing it wrong. Shall we move on, Earnest Christian?
Right. Well, my kids know about it because of my they have good parents.
Mana, motherfucker.
That's right.
Oh God. That's gonna be great. I'll get a call. SI will be like, well, we were going to offer you a paid position, but then we heard this podcast about you saying mana, motherfucker, and we just couldn't. Anyways,
you can't cuss.
Yeah. Well, hey, that means, listen, if they listen to my show, they'll know they'll be safe.
First of all, the biggest podcast on the planet is Joe Rogan, and ain't nothing but cussing on that show.
He does say F a lot. That is true.
All his guests do too.
I mean, hold on, stop. If you come to Florida, you have to go to Disney, right? If you go on Joe Rogan and you don't say fuck, you're doing it wrong.
Or smoke weed.
I couldn't smoke weed on that show. I couldn't, because I don't, and I do bad with smoke anyway. Now, if Joe Rogan called me up and he had brownies there, I might have to try them. I don't always drink wine, but I took a tour in tours when I was in France, man. Listen, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm. So are we on the way to having just what 3 major conferences?
The power two is what people are air quotes afraid of. Let me get there first. You asked the question of, is it a bad thing? I would ask you to define what's bad about it, because I'm getting sick of the blue blood bullshit that if you're a sorry team, you still have a better shot at the beginning of every season to win a national championship. USC with Sam Howell at quarterback, who everybody's going to now see on an everyday basis here coming up in the NFL as he gets crushed because his quarterback isn't somebody named Trevor Lawrence, for example. The only reason the ACC looked good for a short time there is because they were getting dominated. I don't care what Jim, the future Big Ten Notre Dame fan, says about any of it. Shouts to Big Jim Neese. You will be
and Matt too, Notre Dame.
Homer. Yeah, but Matt, I think, accepts the inevitable that the conference is coming. Jim fights me on it still. Am I right, Irish?
I think you're correct on that, actually.
There you go. So I love that you still answer to Irish too. Anyways,
what am I going to do? I'm going to tell you no, I'm going to tell you yes, and I'm going to tell you no. I'm going to do this whole ring around the rosy thing. Nah, we're good.
I mean, listen, if you actually agreed with Jim, I was hoping maybe we can get a first on this show, but not tonight. Anyways.
Say that for week 1.
No, I think this change was coming whether you like it or not. I mean, that's the fact of the case. Money is too much of a factor. Football programs are too big for the ones that are, even though a good portion of them in many ways run at a loss. The marketing dollars and what they bring in through the TV contracts, that's where the real money is generated, right? Mm-hmm. NIL being a thing that's changed, the way that players get their what fans have allegedly been demanding that about player payment, is a thing. The transfer portal. I think the transfer portal causes a bigger problem than any conference realignment, in my opinion. But I'll put it this way. A lot of the history that people are afraid of losing, you're not losing, right? No one's can. Do you even know what the conflict trophy is, EJ
No,
Christian?
do
You
not. No
damn
clue.
straight you don't. But if I'm on one of my UCF podcasts that I do with the black and gold banneret, bing, these morons still make jokes about the alleged rivalry between UConn and UCF. And granted,
That's a thing.
my point exactly. It
Wow.
shouldn't be,
Okay.
but the fans still keep trying to tout it as a thing, and it really shouldn't be. But meanwhile, the important ish that matters, Ohio State, Michigan, the Apple Bowl, Washington State, that's still happening, right? Oregon State is still going to happen. The stuff that's actually worthwhile that people give a damn about will still happen. If you're worried about the conflict trophy, guess what? Deal with it.
The
Right.
conflict trophy.
Wow. And I say that as a joke, as something nobody hears about, but I think the example that Colin Cowherd uses was Arizona State. I mean, it appears that the ratings say nobody watched it. I know I didn't, right?
So by the time we get to 2025, it's 2025, we're going to have, obviously, the SEC. We're going to have the Big Ten. We're going to have the Big 12 now. Big 12 is also starting to reload again with teams like eating some of the
Big 12 currently has 16. It's the craziest shit.
Isn't that crazy? They lose teams and then gain teams again. ACC is still a thing, although there's been
for now,
but it's been reports about them probably being their demise at some point down the road.
Well, everybody does, but let's put it this way. When you made an exclusive contract that was ironclad that lasted into 2036 and expected no problems, that's hubris on the next level. And by the way, the only reason the Pac-12 held as longer as they had is they thought sharing is magic could be some sort of a damn slogan for them and their hubris asses to try to keep together a lower quality of product of football, where a guy can come in the form of Lincoln Riley and take the damn conference by storm and practically win it in his first go round. If he had any goddamn defense, he would have.
I'll say as much though. As someone who's a traditionalist and does a lot of changes, I'm open to this one.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way, and I think the biggest sale is more big games. There are people who I respect that sound like absolute morons when they say the games won't matter as much. Bullshit. You're still going to be parked in front of it, and guess what? There's more big games now than there ever were before. Okay, let's go through USC playing Michigan, Ohio State. They're going to have Notre Dame on the schedule anyway and get their asses kicked because Notre Dame's inevitably overrated again. Shouts to Big Jim. Notre Dame off.
That's the low blow. We pick on him today, aren't we?
You know, I mean, would you rather watch Notre Dame, Wisconsin, or Notre Dame in BC, for Christ's sake? And don't tell me you're watching Boston College. You're not. Hey, listen, I know no Notre Dame wants to see Notre Dame Pitt. That game might get dangerous and take 3 overtimes.
All right. One last thing. Let's get a little personal here. How's your A1C?
Below 6. Last test.
Congratulations. So when you started this whole process, and by the way, you guys know this is a podcast, I announced back in March that I'm type 2 diabetic. I believe you had also said, we didn't even get to the weeds at the time, but about sometime last year.
Yeah,
I was making just cookies and stuff.
It's closer to 18 months.
Right. But you had mentioned on the show way back when you were pre-diabetic.
No, I didn't mention shit. You said, I want to bet a box of cookies, and I told you that was insensitive as hell. That's what happened. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. All right. Sorry. Earnest Christian, evil human being. I apologize.
You could have just said asshole, but okay.
And asshole.
Doubling down. Okay. Listen, you're the dealer. You could double down if you want. That's your call.
Yeah. But you how has this process been for you though? Like obviously mine's a little my process is a lot worse than yours because mine is type 2, although it's on the way down. But when I started this, I told you my A1C when I started this was 11.4.
Yeah.
And that was down to 7.2 as of a month and a half ago.
What was the highest your A1C was?
11.4. That's the one as far as I know.
When I was first informed of my situation, I was at 11.8,
So you were type 2.
according to the numbers. So
Wow. You 11.8. Jesus.
yeah. So
And okay, go ahead.
yeah. So I didn't know what the hell an A1C was when I
Neither did
first
I.
saw it. I mean, the long of the short is, the Mrs. of the game and I were getting a life insurance policy. And they took my blood, and I got the first indication that anything was air quotes wrong. Was I noticed that my application for the life insurance was denied. I'm like, huh? Never had anything like that happen. My financials are clear. I won't, go down the list of
No, you don't need to. No.
stuff to brag. I'm not trying to do that. But suffice it to say, there's no fiscal reason I should be denied. I called them. I'm like, to paraphrase one of my favorite Eric Cartman lines from South Park in my inquiry to the life insurance company. It was something along the lines of, the fuck, Clyde, the fuck, so they were like, yeah, your A1C was high. I'm like, the hell is an A1C? My mom happens to be a nurse. I called her up and she was like, what was the number? And I read it not knowing what it was. And she was like, oh, that's bad. Skipping a few steps. Yeah. Skipping a few steps. I put it, I'll put it this way. My babysitter, was definitely full-blown diabetes. She's taking insulin in a syringe and all that. Refused to give up the food and such that she loved, and kind of slowly just kind of, literally fell apart. First, her foot was amputated, or like half of her foot was amputated, then up to the knee. She was blinded at one point. And like, for me, like, people come up to me like, well, Kyle, that's really great. You did what you did with your diet. That's amazing. I'm like, I'm not that impressed with myself. It's like, it's fucking that, or, go blind and start losing limbs. Listen, my knee has a lot of pain when I try to run, but I like to walk. It's a thing I enjoy doing, So, I mean, and that might sound callous, but that's really kind of my approach to it. It's just kind of a thing I do. Now, the positives from it, just so I don't sound like, like an asshole the whole time. But the way I've kind of gotten through it, what life's kind of become for me, is to just be a lot more control of the food I eat. And that, if anybody gets into the situation in EG, I think you'll double down on this, because the one difference you and I have is you and I are on you are on medication. I had metformin for a short time. Based on tracking my progress, I was able to evaluate that what got me on metformin was a knee-jerk reaction. A little bit about what I'm talking about there. But
only you, dude. It's like a serious conversation about diabetes, and someone told us to troll EJ by way. Oh yeah, but I just knee jerk for record.
I like, when I do shit like that, I picture that conversation of Jean-Luc Picard and Worf in Star Trek First Contact. If you were any other man, I would kill you when you stand.
So how does your so you took metformin for a little while and you stopped, right?
I did, because my numbers and blood sugar were trending down so much. The doctor and I basically were like, you're eating excellent, and that's the part I want to get to. Like, I had a grill in the back. I might use twice a quarter, 4 times a quarter. I'm now grilling 2 to 4 times a week.
Grilling?
Because I got my goddamn groove back on that base. But yeah,
grilling food? Okay.
Grilling meat. Yeah, because listen, for those who haven't done it, when you go diabetic, what they tell you is similar to a lot of other health things: protein, and more protein.
Yes.
Now, while that does inspire thoughts of Tom Brady for EJ, what I do is I choose to go to the grill and now, a problem I've had doing that is the cholesterol got a little higher for a bit because I went a little too crazy on the steak. That's cool. I got chicken. I made a shit ton of drumsticks just today that were goddamn amazing, because I remembered how much talent I have on the grill. They
know you can cook. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not good enough to own my own smoker or use a big green egg yet, because that's some next level shit. I ain't that committed. But since I work from home, when I hit lunch, I have something that I cycle through my fridge. My back, I have a fridge in the garage that's separate from the family one. I cycle through. I have stuff thawed that I've taken out of the freezer. Not to promote. I don't want to promote anybody, so I have meat shipped in from a service. They do seafood and stuff too. All that,
Mhm.
and I'll rotate in food. And then if I happen to get something, like the wife's like, oh, so and so holidays coming up, I'll get lamb or something.
Mhm.
I'll make that shit. I've begun to be at family meals the guy that isn't just, I'm not just the typical man on the grill. Like I am now in the oven and cooking and stuff. Where I used to bake cheesecakes like a madman.
Oh shit. Okay.
I'm instead doing savory food because I'll put it this way: me baking a cheesecake's a bad idea. What does any good chef / baker do? They taste what they're doing. There's a lot of sugar in that bitch. And the other thing I'd want to point out that both my wife and my mom have done like absolute fucking champions is find substitutes. My wife made sugar-free ice cream that basically tasted like the same thing. My mom over holiday time makes pumpkin rolls, which not having one of my mom's pumpkin rolls, if you're associated with House Nash here in Central Florida, is kind of like going on Joe Rogan's podcast and not saying fuck. So, I was, and it affects you so much emotionally, EJ. Like I was really down when Thanksgiving was coming up last year, and I'm like, I'm not going to have any fucking pumpkin roll. And my mom fixed that. She used sativia and substitutes to make it work. And EJ Christian, we live. If there's a time to be diabetic and sugar intolerant, you're in a good place because the sugar-free substitutes they have right now, I don't know how healthy they are as a net positive, but they're fucking delicious, man. They do a better job with sugar-free candy and ice cream and stuff now than the Impossible Burger has ever been, in my opinion. And they've gotten pretty fucking good at that too, not for nothing. Granted,
do you fast? Do you intermittent fast?
By default. And this was a tip. My good painter friend here, by the way, and hopefully he'll try out for the XFL because he should play. Damn it! If he's listening to this, go try out. The damn Guardians need some linemen, Aaron Evans. Shit. But the same guy who, and he didn't do it for diabetic purposes, but he does it to keep in shape because he's still a fucking hoss and he's handsome like Adonis. I said it. Don't worry. My heart still belongs to this one. Don't worry about it. No, but the way you intermittent fast in the most effective way is by not eating late. Your intermittent fast is sleeping, EJ Christian. Think about that.
Yeah.
Not to mention it helps your blood sugar if you're in the building too.
Of course.
I mean,
I would tell you that the intermittent fast has kept me sane because even if I've eaten some, I've struggled recently with the food part. Like I still struggle with bread and whatnot, and so I eat that in the morning.
See, there are substitutes for that though. That's my point. Keto bread is indistinguishable.
Right. You have the Arnold keto bread.
What's that?
You use the Arnold keto bread, the Arnold version. The Arnold.
I've tried it. It's not bad. Multigrain, damn English muffins. I do my own homemade egg McMuffins, man. My carbs and sugar are basically nil in comparison.
Right.
You
weren't just pre. You were type 2 at one point because if you're scoring higher than my number, that's type 2 shit.
Well, the word diabetic remission was used by my doctor at least 6 months ago. So
yeah, if you're 5'9" now, you're not pre-diabetic.
I got down to 5'7" at one point. I was
right.
I mean, for context and the standard I've set for myself, 3 months ago I was at 6 and I was pissed. Just because that.
Did you notice you slip a little bit? Did you notice you slipped a little bit?
So a lot of it was travel at the time.
Right.
A lot of stress.
That doesn't help either.
Like when circumstances, we'll say for political purpose, when my contract was terminated for reasons beyond my control.
Right. I remember that.
May or may not have been questionable. There's a lot of pressure for anybody when they're out of work, and a lot of me trying to keep sports stuff going was problematic. And oh, by the way, somewhere in here, wife and 2 kids, blah 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 blah. I mean, I'm not trying to inspire Big Jim to get out the violin soundbite here, but the timing for a lot of stuff was going wrong all at the same time. And there were other elements that, I don't want to unpack here on the podcast. This is your psychological outlet, not mine. But that I think was the biggest driving force for being 6. Cause for me, if I thought I ate worse when I came out with a 6 than this past one where I came out with a 5.9. Now, granted, if my trip to New Orleans was part of that A1C testing, A1C, and the thing that's tricky about A1C, for those that may not know, is you can't just like eat good for a week. It's not like weight where you could lose 10 pounds in like less than a month by really busting it and just getting it all back and it's fine. A1C is over the course of like 3 months that kind of forms, so.
Yeah. You got to drink a lot of water also. You got to drink a lot of water. Fasting is good.
I mean, that's important anyway. You're right.
Right. I mean, that's one of the things I got to work on. I'll say this summer's been kind of rough because one of the things I did also a lot too, prior to the summer starting, when it got really fucking hot. You're in Florida, you see it.
Yep.
I used to walk a lot. I walked a lot. Like I went to a phase where I was doing like 5 days a week, walking at least 4 miles a day. And that helped also too.
I'm not here to shit on exercise.
Right.
If you can do it, every little bit helps, clearly. Yeah. And if it helps the emotional aspect, which I think we should talk about that too if we're going to dive into this topic, that's great. But understand, I have not been even remotely active. Oh, snap. Hi, Mrs. Christian.
We're doing it live.
We're doing live.
Honey, you are live on the podcast. Say hi to Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
Hi. I don't know if she can hear me.
She can hear you. Well, no, she can hear you. She can hear you. No, she can't hear you. No, I'm sorry. I have headphones.
I can't hear him. No.
You can't hear him. Sorry.
Whatever.
We're recording. What's up? Second podcast in a row you called me while I'm recording.
Right now.
No, I got one more.
Like 9 o'clock.
Nah, it's being Kyle. That's why. What's up?
Well, Kyle can wait. I'm more important.
Oh, you heard that, right?
Listen, first of all, she's not wrong. And unlike you, the only thing she said that's incorrect is that Captain Marvel was a good movie.
That's true. What's up, baby?
I mean, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it on the podcast.
No. Yeah, we're literally recording right now. Will we call you about 2 minutes when we're done?
No, because I'll be back inside.
Okay.
Are you going to be up when I get home or no?
Hell no. I got to work in the morning.
Pansy.
What do you have in the morning when you get home?
Yeah, old ass man.
I know. I am. I try.
Try to wake you up and get you to talk.
I'm gonna hear you anyway, so I'll probably wake up when you get home anyway. So.
That's a damn lie.
Okay. I love you.
That's a damn lie.
All right.
Bye, Kyle.
Say bye, Kyle.
I know.
All right, honey. Later.
She's so great. I really wish that it was louder because I want Jim to have. That's a damn lie.
That's a damn lie. I do appreciate you opening up with us about this because I one of the things when I announced when I said on the show about my diagnosis, I was like you and like the way you explained it, I lived my life as ignorance is bliss. I didn't take those things into account. I just ate what I want to eat. I didn't think about that, and then I had that neck issue in January that triggered everything else. That started a cycle of okay, now what?
Yeah,
high pressure's too high.
You found out, yeah.
High pressure's too high. So I had to go to the doctor and get my blood work and all this stuff, and this was started this whole thing. Now it's been a struggle last month or so. I'll admit. I mean, I am fasting still. I drink a lot of water. I mean, I struggle with the carbs to some extent, but at least I'm not. I will say the one positive thing I will say is that I'm not doubling down on the bad shit though.
Right, and that's
I'll cheat once the blue moon. Right.
Yeah, I mean, once a month, maybe I'll have ice cream with my little girl,
Right.
I think it was 2 months ago because it was summer and I'm not going to get very many chances,
Right.
I went and I spoiled both their dinners by taking the ice cream after school, oh, naughty me, but, it's all about choosing it. Like, if in the right scenario, like when I was in New Orleans, for example, granted, I didn't have any sugar. I'm not getting goddamn beignets. But
yeah.
but I did have no fewer than 2 po' boys in New Orleans. That means French bread. That means probably fried.
And carbs.
Carbs up the wazoo there. However, I'm also walking around a lot more because I'm in New Orleans with the kids.
To offset that a little bit too.
It doesn't. And also, if you're in a position when you're going to eat more carbs, here's more tips for you that may not know. If you have protein with it, that reduces the effects some. Now, I'm not saying, oh, it's a hamburger, I'm safe. Be smart about it. If you get keto hamburger buns and you're in there like swimwear, just watch your goddamn cholesterol. Don't do what Kyle did.
Yeah.
And
I will say though, my wife is going through the same thing in terms of like health and in terms of like being serious and stuff. So it's been motivating. Now
it's good when you can do it together with somebody. Like
right.
My wife diets, but she does it different than I do. She'll be like, she'll hand me this, this low calorie, we'll call it drink. It's like, oh, it's only 60 calories. It's like 500 grams of sugar. Like that don't work.
Right.
That's not the scale, obviously, but that's the concept.
Right. Right. When in doubt, drink water. That's why I do it. Just drink water. Safe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, start out. Listen, if you're going to do it, start out being incredibly careful. Check your numbers on a regular basis. Everybody's body reacts to different shit. Like if somebody has beer, their numbers may jump. Mine don't.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, I mean, with the excuse I've come up with, and maybe it's correct. Listen, most of the sugar's already gone to make the ethanol because the yeast ate it. So fuck it.
Right.
Science!
Anyway, Kyle, plug.
I got to bring this in real quick. I know you got the other call, but
make
sure your mental health is part of it too. Like, because the way I got there was I was eating my feelings. Now, I won't get into the fact that Girl Scout cookies were a factor because Jesus Christ. But, I was recovering from the pandemic. I had to teach a good portion of my daughter, like the last quarter of my daughter's kindergarten, and then also be the primary parent at home while she was doing remote learning in first grade, and all of it, all the stuff that parents had to go through, that took a goddamn toll. And it took a toll on everybody in a different way. I'm not saying this is just me. Actually, this is why I'm saying this, is because chances are you've suffered some version of it too. But yeah, if you're eating your feelings, you need to be incredibly careful with that, because that's how you got yourself into trouble. And the toughest part is, as you go through your journey, I would also advise you, EJ Christian, to think of another outlet. If you are eating your feelings, make sure you account for how else you're going to have an outlet for whatever it is, because if you don't, you will bend your ass right back on the train real quick.
Yeah. And I already said that once the kids start school in 2 days, I'm getting strict again. So, because now I can start walking in the morning and stuff.
Listen, I'll put it this way. The other cool thing about the grilling, my little girls are like, Dad, you should have worked at a restaurant. I'm like, honey, then you wouldn't see Daddy for Christmas. But making her part of the process, she ate some of the chicken I made for dinner that I had for lunch.
Good. So, very good.
It's just find little shit like that keeps you in the game, man.
Absolutely. Plug away, Kyle.
An honor, joy, and privilege, EJ Christian, going next level, not just in sport, but in life. And who knows, one day I will actually be able to talk to Miss Lauren Christian without an interpreter.
Well, we are planning a Scrubs finally ranking podcast.
I mean, it would be nice to talk to her and see her face. I don't think I've done a stream with her, so that'll be fun.
No, we will do so.
And then I would talk about visiting you, because the Bright Line's a thing, but apparently it's $160 fucking to go round trip on that beast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's stupid. What the fuck, guys?
I'll just drive a car then.
Anyway, so with that in mind, of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Instagram as the same, the SOTG. Check out my writings on, you ready, EJ Christian? The 3-point conversion. A little bit of action over here with the black and gold banneret. Some podcast action. Going to be previewing the football program here coming up on blackandgoldbanneret.com, the Night Shift podcast. And look out for my first drop coming sometime this week with the Sports Illustrated Jaguar report. Shouts to my guy, John Shipley, for giving me that opportunity. This is why making contact is important. I actually met him in 2017 in a press box at a UCF game. Anyways.
Nice.
Of course, check out my podcasting work with this effing gay on Huddle Up Inc. Look out for some more football action coming there. And of course, the Student of the Game podcast. Check that out on Wednesday nights. 8:40 Eastern is when we start. I'll talk to you a little bit before I get into the action. First guest usually comes in about 8:50 or 9:15, but previews are a thing. EJ Christian's Cowboys will be a big part of it. The Giants, the Red Tails, and those dudes that are the conference champion runner-up. Yeah, them. They'll be involved as well in the NFC East preview that will drop on Wednesday night with the live stream there on not only the Huddle Up YouTube channel, but a new satellite campus by way of my man, Drew Willingham, host of the In or Out Sports Debate Show. Sertoba Media's YouTube channel will also be streaming the Student of the Game podcast as well as A7BN Sports, as it already does currently. EJ Christian, I am a busy mamma jamma. You better keep looking because you're going to find me. But until next time, my friend, Kyle Nash as a Student of the Game. Class dismissed.